My parents ditched my event for my brother's football game, only to find out later it was my wedding. After the pictures blew up online, Dad threatened divorce. Mom's in meltdown mode, brothers raging. Now the entire family's falling apart piece by piece. Hey, Reddit. So, I invited my parents to something important. They chose my brother's football game instead. I didn't tell them it was my wedding. Photos went online. Now my family's in chaos. Here's how it went down. I'm Christina, 28 female, married now, good job, decent life. But if you ask my mom, she's only got one kid worth talking about, and it's not me. My younger brother, Mike, 22, male, was born and apparently became the son our whole house had to orbit. Mom, 52 now, turned into one of those parents who thinks their kids' football stats are the center of the universe. She wasn't like that before. I remember her being normal when I was little. School projects on the fridge, showing up at my science fair, stuff like that. Then Mike came along, and it was like I got erased from the family picture. Doesn't matter that I put myself through college, never asked them for a dime, and actually have a career now. When it comes to my mom, the only stories worth repeating start and end with Mike and whatever game he played last weekend. Dad, 53, never yelled at me or anything, but he never stood up to her either. He just sat there in the background while Mom hyped Mike up like he was a future NFL star. Grandpa Joe, Dad's dad, was the only one who'd point out how messed up it was. He lives a few states over, about a 3-hour drive from my parents' place, but called every week, and he never hid the fact that he thought Mom was playing favorites. He said it straight to her face once during Christmas. Mom didn't talk to him for months after that. One thing that still stings, my grandparents set up a college fund for me. After a small house fire my junior year, Mom started calling it an emergency fund and said it got used for repairs. Years later, I learned the truth. A big chunk went to Mike's first car, and another chunk went to the down payment on his apartment when he started college. I was working 2 jobs just to keep my own rent paid back then. People ask why I didn't go no contact sooner. Truth is, I tried for years to win some kind of approval. I kept thinking if I hit enough milestones, they'd show up. Didn't happen. Grandpa Joe was the only one who acted proud of me. When I graduated college, he mailed me a handwritten letter saying he wished he could have been there and slipped a $100 bill inside because everyone deserves a cold drink after walking the stage. That's the kind of guy he is. I met my husband Jack in college. We started as friends, both working at the same library desk job. He knew about the family stuff early because he saw it firsthand. Freshman year, my parents visited campus once the whole year because Mike's team had an away game nearby. They didn't even call me to meet up. I found out through Facebook pictures. Jack's the opposite of my family. His parents show up to everything. Small stuff, too. Like when he had a small photography exhibit for an elective, his mom brought cookies for the whole class. Watching that was weird for me at first. Anyway, the story really starts last year after one dumb thing Mike did online. But to explain why it hit so hard, you gotta understand the pattern. Mike's been good at football since middle school. I won't lie, he's talented. Got a scholarship to a decent college. But the way my parents acted, you'd think he was already in the Hall of Fame. Mom has a whole room at home full of his jerseys, medals, framed action shots. Meanwhile, I put myself through school with no help. Got into tech, moved up slowly. When I bought my first car with my own money, Mom said, "Oh, that's nice," then launched into how Mike's coach said he might break a record that season. It was like that every time. Grandpa once told me on the phone, "Stop trying to beat your brother at being their favorite. Build your own thing. One day they'll notice what they missed." And at the time, I thought he was just trying to make me feel better. Turns out he was predicting the future without knowing it. Because one night about a year ago, Mike posted something on Instagram that started a chain reaction none of us saw coming. It was a short video of him at some party, music blasting, him holding a drink, laughing with his teammates. The caption said, "Some of us chase real goals. Some of us just sit behind desks pretending to be important. Guess which one Mom brags about?" Then a bunch of laughing emojis. Mom liked it. So did a few aunts. One cousin tagged me with an eye emoji. That was the first time I felt something snap a little. Not anger exactly, just this feeling like, okay, they've made the scoreboard clear. I didn't comment, didn't text him, But that post set up everything that happened after, stuff that ended with Mike, my parents, and half the extended family looking real different at me than they used to. And it all started because they didn't bother to ask what event I invited them to. By the next morning, a couple of my old classmates had tagged me under it with laughing emojis. Some wrote things like rough or dang, sis, like they were watching a fight instead of my family calling me irrelevant. Mom commented, "So proud of you, champ," under Mike's post, which felt like extra salt on the wound. The post didn't blow up outside our small circle, but it was enough. People I hadn't talked to in years saw it. A friend from high school messaged me, "Man, your brother's a tool." I just said, "Yeah," didn't feel like saying more. The thing is, this wasn't new behavior for Mike. He's always been like this. If he wasn't rubbing in some football stat, it was the car mom bought him at 17 or the apartment they helped him get near campus. He once told me at Thanksgiving that I should aim higher than being average, like he was giving me life advice while our parents nodded along. I didn't respond online because, honestly, what was I going to say? Actually, I have a good job. That just makes you look defensive. Instead, I focused on work. At the time, I was leading a small product team at a mid-sized tech company. We'd been working on a tool for months, and around then, we landed a deal with a regional client that meant a big bonus for the team and a title bump for me. It wasn't flashy like sports, but it was the kind of thing people in my field respected. I didn't post about it publicly. I told Jack, told Grandpa Joe over the phone. He was happy for me. Said, "Keep stacking wins. People notice even if they act blind." That same week, Mike sent me a private message on Instagram. "You could have been something if you tried harder. Don't blame Mom for backing a winner." No punctuation, like he was too busy being successful to type properly. I stared at it for a minute, typed, "Cool," and left it at that. He replied with a laughing emoji. Jack saw the message later when we were watching TV. He asked if I was okay. I said, "Yeah," because what else was there to say? None of this was new. The next day, Grandpa Joe called me after one of my cousins told him about the post. He was angry in that quiet way he gets where he talks slow, like he's trying not to yell. He said, "You don't have to clap back. Build your life. Let the scoreboard talk later." I told him about the promotion. He said he wished he lived closer so we could celebrate in person. Then he asked about Jack, how he was doing, if the wedding plans were moving along, because yeah, by then Jack and I were already engaged. We'd kept it low-key, no big announcements. When we finally picked a date, a Saturday in the fall at Jack's aunt's place, I texted my parents and Mike, "Hey, I've got an important event coming up this fall. Date's October 14th. Would love for you to be there. It's locked in. Can't move it." Mom replied, "That's Mike's last regular season game before playoffs. We'll be there supporting him." I didn't correct her or add details. If they cared, they'd ask. They didn't. Jack asked if I wanted to tell them it was the wedding. I said no. If they cared, they'd ask. Meanwhile, the Instagram post finally faded after a couple weeks. People moved on. Mike kept posting clips from games. Mom kept sharing them with captions like, "So proud of my boy." Grandpa Joe kept calling me every Sunday, asking about work, about Jack, about life. He never brought up the post again, just said, "Tell me when the big day is. I'll be there in my best suit. Haven't worn it since your grandma's funeral. So it's about time it saw some good news." I gave him the date. He wrote it down on a calendar he keeps by the fridge. He said he wouldn't miss it for the world. Meanwhile, my parents never asked, not once. And that's how October 14th stayed on their calendar as Mike's game day instead of Christina's wedding day. I guess to explain why the wedding day ended up the way it did, I should backtrack a bit to when I actually proposed to Jack. It was March last year. We went on this short weekend trip to a cabin 2 hours out of the city. Nothing fancy, just a quiet spot with hiking trails and a lake. I'd been carrying the ring around for 2 weeks, waiting for the right time. I'm not great with big speeches, so I kept it simple. Saturday morning, we hiked up this trail that led to a lookout point over the water. It wasn't crowded that early. I pulled out the ring, managed to say something about wanting him with me in every chapter of my life, and that was it. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the thing. He laughed, said yes immediately, hugged me so hard I lost my balance for a second. No audience, no cameras, just us and a couple birds somewhere in the trees. When we got back home, I called to say I'd proposed. Mom said, "Oh, that's nice," and immediately pivoted to Mike's off-season tournament. Dad murmured, Congrats, daughter. That was the whole reaction. Jack didn't say anything at the time, but later he asked if that was normal. I said, yeah. For the next few months, every time we saw my parents, Mom talked about Mike's training schedule, his stats, his chances for playoffs. Not one question about our plans. Around summer, I found out something else that just cemented everything for me. One of my cousins mentioned that my parents had paid for Mike's new sports agent and some advanced training camp out of state. Big money stuff. I asked how Mike afforded all that, and the cousin said, "Oh, your folks helped, didn't you know?" No, I didn't. Apparently, they used what little was left of that same emergency fund they dipped into years ago, the college fund that was supposed to help me with grad school before it ran out. I remember just sitting there for a while, letting it sink in. It wasn't even about the money anymore. It was the pattern. Everything for Mike. Scraps for me, if that. I didn't argue with them. I didn't bring it up at all. I just told Jack. We're not waiting for them to be excited about our wedding. We're doing it our way. We picked October 14th because it was the only weekend the venue Jack's aunt owned was free in the fall. It was this big backyard with string lights, space for tables, a small dance floor, and a nice view of the hills behind it. Perfect for what we wanted. Simple, private, nothing huge. We invited maybe 60 people, close friends, some of Jack's family, my grandpa Joe, a few cousins I actually talked to. I told him I wanted him to walk me down the aisle since Mom and Dad couldn't be bothered. He went quiet for a second, then said he'd be honored. Meanwhile, Mom kept posting on Facebook about Mike's upcoming game, sharing his highlight reels, talking about scouts possibly being there. Not one word about my event. Dad didn't say anything either. He just stayed quiet like always. By September, everything for the wedding was set. Jack handled decorations with his aunt. I handled the guest list and food. My parents never once checked in. Mike sent me one text in late September. Hope your thing goes good. Mom said it's same day as my game. Bad timing, LOL. I didn't reply. Looking back, that was the point where I stopped expecting anything from them at all. October 14th, last year, came fast. Jack and I stayed at his aunt's place the night before, so we wouldn't have to rush in the morning. He and his family had been amazing, helping with decorations, organizing chairs, setting up lights. By sunrise, the backyard looked perfect. It wasn't some huge ballroom wedding, but it felt right. String lights across the yard, tables lined with simple flowers, a rented arch for the ceremony, and a small setup for the DJ in the corner. The weather was cool but clear. People started arriving around noon. My college friends flew in from 3 different states. 2 cousins I hadn't seen in years drove 6 hours to be there. Everyone kept asking if my parents were coming. I told them no. They had other plans. Nobody pressed me on it right then. Grandpa Joe showed up in his old dark suit looking sharp. He walked straight over, hugged me, and handed me a small box. Your grandma wanted this passed down, he said. Inside was her locket. She told me to give it to the one kid who showed up for others the way people showed up for her. I just nodded. Didn't trust myself to talk. The ceremony started at 2. Grandpa Joe walked me to the arch while Jack's dad walked him. Our friend Amanda officiated. She's got the kind of voice that makes everything sound official, even though she mostly reads poetry at open mics. We kept the vows short. Neither of us wanted to drag it out. When Amanda said we were married, everyone cheered. Someone popped one of those confetti tubes, and the DJ played a song Jack loved from college. We did photos right after. A professional photographer handled the main shots, but people snapped their own too. My cousins wanted a big family picture. That's when someone asked again where my parents were. I said, Mike had a game. They couldn't make it. A couple of relatives exchanged looks but didn't comment. Grandpa Joe leaned toward me at one point and said, they're going to regret this. Dinner was buffet style. Barbecue, pasta, salad, nothing fancy, but plenty of it. Jack's aunt knew a caterer who gave us a discount, and people went back for seconds. We paid for the wedding ourselves. No loans, no help from my parents, just us and Jack's aunt giving us a break on the space. While folks were eating, one of my dad's sisters, Aunt Linda, took a few pictures of the ceremony and posted them on Facebook. I didn't think much about it then. I wasn't on my phone anyway. We'd planned to go completely offline once the night ended. After dinner, we had a small first dance, then opened the floor. Some kids ran around playing tag near the fence. People laughed, told stories, stayed late. It felt like what weddings are supposed to feel like, friends and family actually being present. Around 9 p.m., we wrapped things up. Guests started leaving in groups. My college buddies offered to help clean up, but Jack's aunt waved them off, said she'd handle it in the morning. Grandpa Joe hugged us both and said, "I haven't danced in 20 years. I'm going to pay for it tomorrow, but it was worth it." We promised to call him once we got back from our trip. The plan was simple. We'd leave the next morning for a short honeymoon. No phones, no work, just a week off. We both wanted to disconnect completely. Before bed, I glanced at my phone once. Dozens of notifications already from relatives reacting to Aunt Linda's post. A few messages from cousins saying things like, "Your mom's comment section is going wild." I put the phone face down and didn't open anything. Figured it could wait until after the trip. The next morning, we loaded the car, waved goodbye to Jack's aunt, and drove off. It felt good leaving everything behind for a while. No calls, no texts, no drama for 7 straight days. Just us, some hiking trails, a couple small towns we'd never visited, and quiet evenings. I didn't know it yet, but while we were gone, that Facebook post was spreading through our parents' whole community. People they'd known for decades were sharing it, commenting on it, asking why they weren't at their own daughter's wedding. By the time we got home, things had completely blown up. When Jack and I got back a week later, I turned my phone on for the first time since the wedding. It barely loaded before notifications started coming in nonstop. Missed calls, texts, voicemails, tags on Facebook, dozens of them. At first I thought something serious had happened, like an accident, but then I opened Messenger and saw a wall of messages about Aunt Linda's wedding post. She'd uploaded maybe 10 pictures. Us at the ceremony, Grandpa Joe giving a little toast, the dance floor. Her caption said, "Beautiful day, celebrating Christina and Jack. Some folks chose other priorities, but the rest of us had a wonderful time." That line, "some folks chose other priorities," was what set everything off. People from our hometown started sharing it with comments like, "Wait, her parents didn't go? And didn't they miss her graduation too?" A couple people even tagged my mom directly asking if it was true. By the time I was scrolling, it had spread through local groups, old neighbors, even people from our church growing up. It wasn't viral like millions of strangers seeing it, but in our parents' community, everyone knew. Under my aunt's photos, Mom commented, "She never told us it was a wedding." People immediately pointed out she hadn't asked. That was the whole problem boiled down to a thread. Meanwhile, my inbox was full of messages from Mom, ranging from angry to begging. The first ones were pure rage. "How dare you humiliate us like this?" Then, "Your aunt had no right to post that." And the best one, "You should have told us it was your wedding." Like she wasn't the one ignoring my text for months. After a few hours, the tone switched. "Please call me. We need to talk." Then, "People won't stop messaging me. I can't sleep." And finally, "This is tearing our family apart." Mike sent his own set of texts full of attitude like always. "Real classy move, sis. You made Mom look bad on purpose." He even threw in, "You're pathetic for hiding your wedding like that." Like I was the villain here. I didn't answer any of them. The real hit came from Grandpa Joe. While we were gone, he drove 3 hours to visit my parents in person, sat them down in their own living room, and told my dad he was ashamed of him for letting this happen. My cousin who lives nearby said Grandpa didn't yell, but his words landed hard. He told Dad, "You've let that woman run this house into the ground while your daughter learned to stop expecting anything from you." According to my cousin, Dad just sat there pale like someone pulled the plug out of him. After Grandpa left, Dad called me. I let it go to voicemail because we were still unpacking. He left a message saying he was sorry, that he felt sick for missing the wedding, that he knew he failed as a father. Said he told Mom things were going to change or he was done. That surprised me. My dad's been quiet my whole life. Hearing he finally put his foot down felt strange. Mom kept messaging, though. After the angry ones came the guilt trips. She wrote things like, "I'm your mother. I deserve a chance to explain." Then, "You don't know how hard this has been on me." She even tried, "Your father is talking crazy, saying things he doesn't mean." By the end of the week, she was straight up begging, "Please don't cut us off. I'll do anything to make this right." While all this was happening, Aunt Linda texted me saying, "I didn't think my post would cause this much drama. I just wanted to celebrate you guys." I told her it wasn't her fault. On top of that, other relatives started calling me. A couple of Mom's sisters were mad at me for making her look bad. They said she was heartbroken, crying all day, embarrassed in front of her friends. I told them she embarrassed herself by skipping my wedding for a football game. Dad's side of the family mostly backed me. A few cousins even posted supportive comments under Aunt Linda's pictures. Stuff like, "Christina deserved better," and "About time someone said it." The whole thing reached another level when Mike's big game, the one my parents chose instead, went badly. His team lost, and he got benched in the second half after throwing 2 interceptions. They still slipped into the playoffs on a tiebreaker, but got bounced in the first round the following week. People online started joking about how he skipped his sister's wedding for that performance. Some of his own teammates commented laughing emojis under posts about it. Mike texted me again after that, furious. "You cursed the season with your drama." I didn't reply. By the end of the week, Dad texted again asking to meet in person. He said he wanted to talk one-on-one without Mom there first. I agreed, but only after telling Jack everything. He said he'd back whatever decision I made, but didn't want me letting them guilt me into anything. That's when I realized things were only getting messier before they got clearer. Dad picked the diner 2 towns over, said he didn't want anyone overhearing. When I got there, he was already sitting at a booth near the back. Coffee in front of him, no food. He looked older than I remembered, like the last couple of weeks had taken years off him. He didn't waste time. As soon as I sat down, he said, "I owe you an apology." I didn't say anything, just waited. He looked at his coffee like he was scared of eye contact. "I should have been at your wedding. I should have been at a lot of things. Your graduations, your plays, all of it. I let your mother run everything because I didn't want fights in the house. I thought keeping the peace was the same thing as being a good dad. It wasn't." It was the most direct thing I'd ever heard from him. He said he told Mom if she didn't start fixing things with me, he was done. He'd spent the last week on the couch after Grandpa Joe's visit because he couldn't even look at her without thinking about what Grandpa said. He said Grandpa told him he failed as both a son and a father. Then he said he wanted to start making things right. Not just words, actual changes. He said he wanted counseling, was going to pay back what he took from my college fund, even if it took years, and wasn't letting Mom's excuses run the show anymore. He didn't write every check, but he let it happen, and he said as much. I told him I appreciated the apology, but this wasn't something a few checks and therapy sessions would magically fix. He nodded and said he knew, said he was ready to prove it with actions. We sat there a while, not talking much. When the waitress came, he ordered pie for both of us like that would make things less heavy. It didn't, but I ate it anyway. 2 days later, Mom texted asking to meet too, this time with both of them. Jack came with me. I wasn't going to sit through whatever this was alone. We met at the same diner. Mom looked wrecked. Puffy eyes, messy hair, like she hadn't been sleeping. She started right in with, "You didn't tell us it was your wedding. If you had, we would have been there." And I told her I invited them to an event, and she didn't even ask what it was before saying Mike's game was more important. She tried saying it was a misunderstanding, that she assumed it wasn't major because I didn't push. I said, "That's the problem. You never cared enough to ask." She started crying, not quiet tears either, full-on sobbing into a napkin. The waitress kept glancing over. Mom said she thought she was supporting the child who needed it most, that Mike's career had a window of opportunity, and she wanted to give him every chance. I said she didn't support him. She obsessed over him and forgot she had another kid. I told her about the college fund, the graduations, the birthdays she skipped, listed them out so she couldn't act like this was about one wedding. She kept saying she was sorry. I told her sorry didn't erase years of choices. Dad stayed quiet except to say he was starting counseling and she should come too. He said things were changing whether she liked it or not. By the end of the meal, I told them I wasn't cutting them off. But I wasn't pretending everything was fine either. I told them if they wanted a relationship, it was going to take time and actual effort. No more one-sided excuses. Mom nodded through tears. Dad just looked tired, but said he understood. The next day, Mike texted asking to meet face-to-face. We met at the park near my apartment. He showed up in his team hoodie, looking annoyed before we even started talking. He said he was under pressure from scouts, coaches, his whole season falling apart. He said the wedding thing blew up bigger than it should have. I told him it blew up because our parents spent years acting like I didn't exist while he rubbed it in my face. He said he didn't ask to be the favorite. I said, "Yeah, but you sure enjoyed it." He didn't deny it, just kicked at the gravel near his feet and said, "People hate me now because of this." I told him people hated what he represented, a family that put one kid on a throne and ignored the other. He asked if we were good. I said we weren't enemies, but we weren't siblings either. Not right now. He didn't have anything to say to that. When I got home, Grandpa Joe called to check in. I told him about the talks. He said he was proud I kept my head and didn't get dragged into another fight. "Stick to what you said and let time do the talking," he told me. 2 days later, my boss offered me a lead role on a new product line at work. Bigger responsibility, better pay. I accepted. For the first time in weeks, I felt like something in my life was moving forward while the rest of them were stuck dealing with the mess they made. By winter, things had settled down, at least on my side. Jack and I moved into a bigger apartment closer to work, and I started the new role leading the product team. The extra pay meant we could finally start saving for a house instead of just talking about it. Dad kept his word about the money. Every month, like clockwork, he sent a small transfer labeled College Fund Payback. Sometimes $20, sometimes $50. Not big amounts, but enough to show he wasn't just talking. He even wrote little notes like month 1 or getting there. It wasn't about the money anymore anyway. It was about him actually doing something for once. He also told me he started going to counseling. Said it was strange at first, but he was learning how to actually speak up instead of keeping the peace by staying silent. I didn't push him for details, just said I was glad he was doing it. Mom went with him a couple times, according to Dad. He said the counselor told her point blank she needed to stop living through Mike's life and actually look at the damage she caused. I don't know if she took it to heart. She did text me a few times saying she was sorry again, but I didn't answer right away. When I finally did, I told her I wasn't interested in hearing more apologies. I wanted to see actual change. If she wanted a relationship, she had to stop acting like nothing happened and start proving things were different now. She said she understood. I wasn't sure if she really did, but at least the conversation stopped being about her crying and started being about what she was going to do moving forward. Mike stayed mostly quiet after that park conversation. He had a rough end to his season. First-round playoff exit, no scouts knocking with offers like he expected. He posted less online too, probably tired of people leaving comments about how he skipped my wedding and lost the game anyway. He texted once in December, saying people still thought he was the villain of the family. I told him that was because he acted like one for years. He said that wasn't fair. I told him fair would have been me having parents who cared about more than his football stats. He didn't reply after that. On Christmas, Dad came alone to visit us, said Mom stayed home because she didn't want to make things awkward. He brought a small gift for Jack, a set of baking dishes we actually needed, and a framed photo from our wedding he had printed. Said he got it from Aunt Linda and wanted us to have it. It was the first time he'd given me anything personal in years. We ate lunch, talked about work, about Grandpa Joe coming to visit in the spring. Nothing heavy. When he left, he said he was proud of me. Simple words, but he'd never said them before. By February, Jack and I were looking at houses online. Nothing rushed, just seeing what was out there. My job was going well. He was getting more photography clients, and life finally felt like it belonged to us instead of being tied up in family drama. Grandpa Joe came out to see us in March. We drove him to this big park with hiking trails and a lake. He used a cane now, but insisted on walking as far as he could. Said it felt good to breathe fresh air after winter. He told me he was proud of how I handled everything. Said most people either explode or cut everyone off completely, but I drew lines and stuck to them. Said that takes more strength than yelling. We sat on a bench looking out at the water. He told me about when he was younger and finally stood up to his own father about something. Said it didn't fix everything overnight, but it changed the way people treated him from then on. Driving back, I thought about how different things felt now. Not perfect, but quiet. No daily drama, no constant texts demanding attention, no fights about Mike, just my life moving forward. A week later, I posted one photo from the wedding on my own page. Nothing dramatic, just me, Jack, and Grandpa Joe standing under the lights in the backyard. My caption said, "I'm good. Built my own thing with people who show up." That was it. No hashtags, no long explanation, no comments left on. After that, I put my phone away, sat on the couch with Jack and Grandpa, and watched the sun go down through the window. For the first time in years, it felt like everything was finally where it belonged. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube this video deserves to blow up, and it keeps even crazier stories coming your way.